Well, it's great to be here today. I had to gobble my lunch down, or I probably wasn't going to get any. And one thing I want to emphasize, I want to talk about the people that really helped me. And Mother got me into great early intervention. By the time I was 2.5, I had really great early intervention. I had all the standard autistic symptoms. I had no speech until 3.5 to 4 years old. Can't emphasize enough the importance of early intervention. And I've had parents come to me and say, well, I got a 3-year-old that doesn't talk and he rocks, and it's going to take us 2 years to get a diagnosis. And I tell them, don't wait. Get some grandmothers, get some students, get somebody to start working with that kid like right now. That's really, really, really important. And I was mainstreamed into a small, normal school, old-fashioned, highly structured 50s classroom, and I was very good at art. And my ability in art was always encouraged. You know, we got to take the thing the kid's good at and build on it. One of the things about autism is it tends to be an area of strength and an area of weakness. Art was always encouraged, and I was encouraged to do pictures of a lot of different things. Because if I'd been allowed to just draw horses all the time, well, then I'd be just still drawing horses all the time. It's very important to take the thing the kid's good at and broaden it out so they get to doing things other people, you know, want to have done. And then a little later on in high school, some of my important mentors were, you know, Ann, my aunt out at the ranch, and he was actually Mr. Carlock. He got an honorary doctorate for the movie. And by the way, the movie will be out in DVD in August, and the bookstore out here can probably pre-order it for you. But mentors really made a difference. But you got to get kids on the spectrum out doing stuff. Originally, I was afraid to go to my aunt's ranch. And Mother said you could be there for 2 weeks or for all summer. You got to get people out doing things. And one of the things I really liked in the movie is at the gate and all my projects, I actually built all those projects. And the dipping vat was made off the original drawings. In fact, at the end of the movie is the scene with the conference room with all the meatpacking plant guys. Those are my actual drawings laying on that table. I Xeroxed them myself down at FedEx Kinko's, rolled them up in the tube and sent them to them. And I have to say that the geek side of me really, really liked having all the projects being made. And when I was in high school, I was learning a lot of valuable job skills. I took care of 9 horses, you know, shingled the barn, painted signs. When I was in college, I did internships. We're not doing enough with these smart kind of Asperger kids on work skills. When I was 13 years old, Mother had me working 2 afternoons a week hand sewing dresses for a lady who did freelance seamstress out of her house. And I'm seeing too many smart kids with Asperger's graduate from college, and they've never mowed a lawn or walked a dog. I mean, they have bagged a grocery. They haven't done one little stitch of work. And I think that's really bad, because there's another thing that was pounded into me as a young child was manners. You know, I didn't exactly eat too well. I hope nobody videotaped how I ate, because I was really gobbling it down. But I remember, I talk about manners. Don't push with your finger. You're going to have to push it with your knife. You know, don't put your fingers in your food even though you're in a rush. You know, you're preaching manners. Somebody's going to videotape me how I just, you know, eaten badly and then put it on YouTube. I wouldn't want... I wouldn't want that to happen. But one of the things in working with people with autism is their thinking is detail to general. See, most people think general principle to detail. And one thing I find when people ask me questions about their child is they often be very vague. They say, well, my kid has got a behavior problem in the classroom. Well, I don't know what a behavior problem in the classroom is. Is he having a tantrum? Is he saying rude remarks? I mean, what exactly is he doing in the classroom? You see, for me to learn a concept, it's all by specific details. Okay, how do I understand something like bad table manners or being rude? Well, if I do something that's rude, like, let's say, comment on what somebody looked like in a really nasty way, Mother would say to me, that's rude. Or it's bad table manners. So when you eat with your mouth open, you take your fork and swirl it around up in the air like that. That's bad table manners. You see, and then I learned what bad table manners is through a whole lot of specific examples and things I kind of did to then put in the bad table manners file. You know, it's, you know, what is honesty? Well, if you found a wallet with $100 in it and you gave it back, that's an example of being honest. I have to learn that concept through specific examples. And if the only example I knew was return a wallet that I found, well, then I would think honesty only applies to finding wallets. To teach the concept of honesty, I've got to have a whole lot of specific examples of honest behavior. Otherwise, I'm not going to know it. Otherwise, honesty's not going to generalize. Okay, in teaching number concepts, count toy dinosaurs, count pennies, count pieces of candy. That number concepts apply to a lot of different things. How do you teach up and down? Well, a kite flies up, you walk up the stairs, you go up a hill, you climb up a ladder. Those are all specific examples of up. Now, one of the things I really liked in the movie is they did an absolutely fantastic job of showing how I think visually. There's a scene in there where a whole bunch of shoes come up in rapid succession. That is exactly how I think. And that was really helpful in my work on designing equipment because I could test run equipment in my mind. I used to think that everybody could test run equipment in their mind. I didn't even know that it was a special skill. That's how I thought everybody thought, until I wrote Thinking in Pictures. I also really want to credit, Margaret Scararino's over here, who's the co-author with Emergence, and Anna Arena with Arena Press, Academic Therapy. They helped get me started. When Emergence was written, nobody with autism had ever written, like, what was it like to be autistic? Some people almost sort of didn't believe it, this book was even possible. There's a scene in the movie where all the people start to listen to me. It happened kind of like that. It was at an big autism meeting, and it was a round table discussion where you'd have a bunch of tables like this. Each table was supposed to talk about a different subject. Well, I had one table, and what ended up happening is the whole room started listening to what, they wanted to hear what I had to say. So it was kind of like in the movie. All the work experience things in the movie, they were accurate. I did get bull testicles put on my car. I did have a boss that slammed down a can of deodorant and said, your pits stink. And, well, I was furious at the time. But when I look back at it, I'm glad they did that. I think being eccentric's okay. But you can't be an absolute rude slob. And I want to, really credit a lot of people for helping me. I think what we'll do now is I'm going to just take questions off the floor and just start answering a whole lot of questions. This is a small enough room. I think I can hear people just fine. Okay, right here. Well, on the first, let's answer one question at a time. The first question concerned the squeezing machine. Well, I watched the cattle go in the squeeze chute, and I noticed to calm the cattle down, so I thought I would try it. And when I got into my 20s, I was highly motivated to prove I wasn't stupid. But the way I wanted to prove that was by designing things that worked. And then people thought it was really weird, and I learned that what I had to do is I had to sell my work, not myself. Like I'd go to an ag engineering meeting, or I'd go out to feed yard, and they'd think I was really, really weird, and they didn't want to talk to me. But when I showed my work, my drawings, pictures of jobs, articles I'd written in the Arizona Farmer Ranchman, then I got respect. And I give this advice to a lot of people. I didn't get a single job through the normal job interview. Every single job I ever landed, even the biggest companies, was by sending a portfolio of work. And you don't want to put too much junk in it. You want something where you open it up and it's like, wow, this is really good. And in today's electronic age, sometimes it's best to send it the old-fashioned way in the mail because people do not open strange attachments because of all the viruses. And you want a few things neatly presented. Well, I had a very nice brochure of different cattle facilities. I'd have maybe an article, two articles from Beef Magazine in it, a drawing, and a plastic page with photos because they didn't have the color copiers when I got started. And it's something that somebody could open up and in 30 seconds just go, wow, that's wonderful. That's how I sold my work. And I just can't emphasize enough, especially when we're getting on the higher end of the spectrum, we're not doing enough on the work things. Also, in dealing with the employment issues, you've got one end of the spectrum, maybe bagging groceries is a suitable job for the rest of the person's life. But at the other end of the spectrum, the person maybe ought to be a computer programmer at Silicon Valley, not bagging groceries. And I'm seeing too many smart people doing, being trained for employment like janitors. That's, they should be doing something much more high level than that. What drives me really nuts is I go out to a big computer conference and there's all kinds of Asperger people walking around there, very successful, and then they look just like Shane in Big Bang Theory, a little older, but they wear the same kind of shirts that he wears, and they're very successful. Then I go somewhere else away from the tech companies, and I see a 12-year-old come up to me, and they want to put him on Social Security because he's not very social. And they say, well, there's nothing interesting to show him in Kansas. And I go, yes, there is. There's feed yards. There's oil wells. There's all kinds of interesting things, irrigation equipment, tractors, all kinds of farming stuff. There's lots of interesting things. It's right there. Because the thing about the doors, and the doors featured really prominently in the movie, is the problem is most people are not seeing the doors. They're there, but they don't see them. The other thing is they don't stay open very long. When they open, you got to go through them because they go away really quickly.
Actually, I have some questions that we've collected already.
Okay.
And just as an info, I was supposed to do this before. So there are index cards at your place. And in the Unity room, there are index cards and pencils. If you have a question for Dr. Grandin, please fill it out, raise your hand, and someone will come by and get that and bring it back into the room here for you. So the runners need to kind of look around the room. But I have one here from Kim who says, I am an Aspie. I am frequently misinterpreted and misinterpret others. I am also misunderstood often, and others misunderstand me. Many times we don't even know it. What is the best way to cope?
Well, I would have to answer that question with specific situations. You see, everything that I've learned has to be specific. And the more things you can get out and get exposed to, then I go, well, that didn't work very well, telling the plant manager who's stupid. That's a really good way to lose a job. Better not do that. Don't make that mistake again. Now, but there are things where I didn't know that people had these magic little eye signals until I read about them in a book when I was 50 years old. There's a lot of things that, that today, on social things. Now, the way I got socialization was through shared interests. When I was in high school and getting tortured with teasing, I did have friends. There was Carol that I rode horses with. There were kids I did electronics with when I got older, guys out on the construction sites and building things. I'm a big believer in getting these nerdy kids that are getting tortured into the different clubs like, drama club, music club, art club, Lego Mindstorms, robotics, just all kinds of things, history club, where they get in with a shared interest. Like I have a good friend named Jennifer Myers. She does a lot of autism talks. And she and her husband are both in the computer field. And, their idea of romantic dinner is you go out and you get really good wine, very expensive restaurant, candles and everything, because we want to really be romantic. And then you got the really romantic subject, a 4-hour discussion of computer data storage systems. Because there's just nothing more interesting than that. And I can totally relate to that. And we've got to get them in, I find that the Aspies that are really happy are the ones that have got interesting careers. Because I go out, okay, I went to the TED conference. You've got lots of technical people there. I can tell you there were Aspergers all over that conference. Very, very successful ones. And the thing that's interesting is the tech community gets worried about the label. They get worried about the label holding them back. Shane in Big Bang Theory is as Asperger as he comes. But that show doesn't come out and say it.